My name's Aldrin. I'm 26 years old now, and as you've heard, I was born in India, and I came over to the UK when I was 13 years old. That was 2002. And so coming over was actually a really crazy experience for me. And I came over on the plane, and I remember before I came, I was like, yeah, it's going to be amazing, just UK, I've never traveled outside of India before that. So I was like, look, coming down on the plane, I was like, oh, there's so many lights, and like, this is an amazing place. So I was actually in London in Southall at my cousin's for the first couple of weeks. If you anyway know Southall, it's pretty crazy. And then we moved to High Wycombe. Anyone know High Wycombe? Sweet. It's just outside kind of Slough, that kind of area. And it was interesting going to school because basically I studied in like an English school back home in India. So I had like the grammar aspect of English on lockdown, but the accent wasn't quite there, I can't even remember my accent because I hardly spoke. Because I could hear people and I understand them, but I wouldn't speak just because of this fear of being able to pronounce stuff the right way. So slowly I tried to imitate people how they used to speak. That's kind of like the first kind of hurdle I kind of came across coming to England. And obviously when I came, I'm going to schools and I wanted to be a part of, kind of make friends, all that sort of stuff. And my first experience of, let's say, conflict with somebody was interesting. There's a group of us, just year 8s or whatever it was. And we're sitting, and there's like a couple of chairs and a couple of, so myself and someone else was sitting down, and there's a couple of them were standing. And so this guy comes to me and he's like, oh, somebody wants to see you just around the corner. I was like, what? So I went up and he took my chair. And I was like, it's furious, And I basically ended up just going around, picking up the chair and taking him off the chair. And like, we're going to end up in a fight, but like my cousin was at that, so he kind of broke the fight with me. But so basically what I'm trying to tell you is like my kind of character was very kind of furious and just easily angered and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not going to take anything from anybody, even though I was like a freshie. You know what I'm saying? I was just, that was my character coming. And so I was getting bullied basically by a lot of different people regarding my accent, the way I had my hair even. Silly one, I had curtains. For some reason, I don't know why I had curtains. But yeah, so I was getting bullied. So I was like, so now I'm thinking, how do I get out of this? I don't want to be bullied. I want to get out of this. So I ended up starting to kind of hang around with these people who were the bullies. So, like that seemed like a cool thing to do. Because hanging around with the nerds, I was still getting bullied. And I didn't like getting bullied. And I'm not going to stay put and get bullied. That's not in me. I can't do that. So I was like, I need to come up with something to get out of this. And so started to kind of like get into and kind of basically do things that will please these people. So act crazy in class, act crazy with the teachers and stuff like that, just because that's what you do, right? To get that kind of respect in a school setting. So then I started smoking cigarettes. Now, that was my first kind of delving into kind of those kind of lines. Started smoking cigarettes, hanging around with these people, going out. And that was kind of like open gate, if you want to put that, for me anyway, to go further in. So I actually used to first smoke like just after school once in a while, and that's it. So I'm not going to tell you all the details because we've got more details after. But so like slowly that I started smoking cigarettes every day. Then once I tried to smoke cannabis. And I ended up laughing for like 2 hours after that. Which feels good. I'm not going to stand and tell you like smoking weed doesn't make you feel good. I'm not going to tell you that. There's other consequences to it that are not good, but it does make you feel good for a time. What? That's the truth. And I'm going to be real with you guys, because that's what life is about. Jesus was a real dude. So smoking weed made me feel good for a while. I was laughing, we just have jokes and all that stuff. Yeah, so like at the beginning, it was at school. I smoked with my friends, supposed friends, go back into lesson, just laugh our heads off, not learn anything, and the day was good. And then basically, so that kind of went on. So I started smoking more, which meant I needed more to get me high, that kind of thing. So that got me into the whole drug dealing thing. Is basically so I wasn't so. It says drug dealing story. So my drug dealing wasn't motivated just from a point of making money. That wasn't my initial motive anyway. My initial motive to deal drugs was so I can have more, so I can make some money, or just have a smoke for myself, or that kind of thing. That was my main motive, because I couldn't afford, like I couldn't ask a £10 from my mum every afternoon or something like that. I tried that, but soon I got cut down. What are you using that for? Sweets, that. Chocolate, that. You're not doing that. So my parents didn't know I was smoking cigarettes or anything like that. And if you know, I don't know if you know, hopefully you don't know, maybe you do know. When you're smoking weed, you get the munchies. So you need more money now, not just for for the food afterwards. So it doesn't work out that well. And so that kind of led me into dealing drugs, and then even dealing drugs wasn't it. So I got into some funny business or conning people and stuff. I was stealing as well, stealing phones and stuff like that of people and selling that to make some money, or just swapping that for a little bit of drugs or whatever. So I got into that. So that's kind of how I'm getting involved. And so I have some funny stories to tell you as well. But anyway, so I'm doing this stuff. So there was this, I'm kind of trying to steal phones or whatever and do bits and bobs like that. Next, okay, so then I started getting into, I was out with my friends one night, and one of them had some cocaine. And I used to be a herbalist, right? That's what I was grown up to be from my friends initially anyway. Just the herbs. I'm not going to be smoking any synthetic or sniffing or anything like that. But I somehow ended up trying cocaine. And again, I liked it. I liked it. And it made me feel good. It made me feel higher than what weed was making me feel now. So yeah, again, in the beginning, it was once in a while thing, which was cool in that sense, because I didn't need to buy it every day. Because now going from spending £20 a day on weed, cannabis, to spending £50 or £100 a day on cocaine is a big step, So I couldn't even do that, but that's the reality of it. If you're gonna be doing those drugs, you need to have big money, especially cocaine and that stuff. But anyway, so it was interesting. I've always liked science, interestingly enough. I was named after Buzz Aldrin, if some of you know that, and I don't know whether that has anything to say. But when I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut, but my motivation for study wasn't at that level, so that kind of went out the window. But I had a kind of interest and a curiosity in my mind to find out why things work and how they work. So anyway, I was doing A-level, AS level chemistry and stuff. So we had an experiment to make aspirin at my college sixth form, and we made aspirin. And I was like, so I don't know whether we were supposed to. I don't think we were supposed to. We shouldn't. But I ended up taking some of this aspirin home. And the reason I took it, so I was like, I'm gonna sell this as cocaine. Don't try this at home. Grind up some aspirin and be like, yeah, I'm a dealer. No, I'm joking. Anyway, so my mate came up to me one night. He was like, this guy wants some cocaine. I was like, yeah, okay, I've got some. He was like my best friend at that time, so he knows what I mean when I say that. So this dude knew him, and I had one of these high neck top, I don't know what you call it, but you can basically roll them up and pull them up to there. So this guy, my friend, he told the customer all things about how I'm known, and I don't want my face shown, so my face is going to be covered, so don't worry about that, and all of that stuff. So I had this kind of little rolled up in a cling film aspirin, and I went over and was like, yeah, here, kind of just had a look at it and put it, went on his way. I'm only telling you the story because that guy didn't die, because later I found out he was looking for me. But my friend obviously told him, like, he's just a random dealer I found for you. And I was like, why are you asking me? But anyway, so that was one of the craziest things I've done. I don't advise anyone to do it. But yeah, so anyway, like, I was genuinely just selling weed at that point anyway. That was my main thing. So that's where I was basically buying an ounce or a couple of ounces and then selling, so I have some free weed to smoke. Basically, that was my general thing. And so that's what I was doing. And, like, coming back to a bit more kind of looking inside me now. So I moved to, I tried my AS levels, like, actually I passed my AS levels the first times, which was surprising because I wasn't at sixth form and much. But A2 levels, I tried to do my A2 3 times. Didn't. Sometimes, like, I think twice I failed, and one time I was like, I had enough halfway through the year, and I gave up. But then, so I think then my mom and dad took me to India to detox me, and I actually had an issue going on. Kind of people were looking for me, so I was like, it'd be nice to kind of get away for a few months and let the situation die down. So I came back from India, and I basically, then again, I was like, okay, like, let me try and work my life, because obviously I've got parents' pressure, and I'm like, let me do something. I can't sit at home and do nothing, and I don't want to get a job. So the best thing to do is try and study. So I was going to do an access course in Norfolk, the College of West Anglia, King's Lynn. You guys might know it. It's not that far away from here, I think. So that's where I actually would say where I kind of, so my kind of dealing drugs and smoking and making a little bit of money was okay for me from cannabis. But when I went to King's Lynn, that's where kind of stuff really happened and went crazy. Actually, before that, let me just share so I was looking into myself. So over the years, I was really nice to my parents, like growing up as a child, I was like, I had really loving relationships. But slowly, because I was doing the drugs, I was staying out, I was consistently lying to them again and again, whether it be why I'm out, where I am, why I want some money, all of these things. I was consistently lying to them. And I remember obviously looking back at it now, I can see it, my heart just slowly was getting so hard towards them, whatever they were saying. And I would stay out for nights without even telling them. And like literally my parents would come home, you can call them like they're overly attached and stuff like that. I'll come home and they'll literally be crying in front of me, and because of at that moment or the drugs, I wouldn't obviously I would be like, oh, don't cry, whatever, but really in my heart, I didn't really feel sympathy towards them. And that concerns me right now anyway. Maybe it didn't back then because I was only concerned with getting some more weed and getting high. But yeah, so that's what was going on inside me, like my kind of perceptive and my relationships were breaking down. I was only really friends with people who were doing the drugs and chilling out with them. That was all kind of the people who were buying stuff off me, because they'll come and they'll buy stuff off me and smoke with me. That's kind of like the perfect customer if you're ever a dealer. Or were a dealer, but anyway, so moved to King's Lynn. I'm like, okay, this time I'm gonna actually make something or make this work. I was like, okay, I'm gonna work hard and play harder. Like, I don't know why I even thought about that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my study stuff, and then I'm gonna party and do the drugs and all that stuff. I can do that. Somehow I ended up getting into more drugs. I ended up connecting with these people who were basically, again, dealers, and they had this little kind of apartment thing going. Well, it wasn't an apartment, it was basically like one room and a toilet, and it wasn't a nice place because all of them are like crazy druggies, right? And some of them were selling and doing acid, cocaine, ketamine, MDMA, stuff before I'd hardly heard about, right? And I started hanging out with them and started doing basically cocaine on a regular, and ketamine and MDMA. So this is where really I blew it, to be honest, and really went too far into it where it really completely crushed me. inside, not on the outside, so to speak. Anyway, even though I did have some experiences where one time I remember, so I did like a massive line, we call it, of coke, ketamine, MDMA. Call it CKM or something like that. I don't know, remember now, but like I felt like I was gonna die, and I was literally saying goodbye to all the people there. I was like, I feel like, yeah, like it sounds funny now. Literally, I was like, that's it, tonight I'm going. And like, partly I think I was crazy, obviously, the drugs. Partly I think there's this physiological thing going on where my heart was literally felt like I was going to come out. And I had a little bit, I forgot it was weed or cocaine now. And I was going and I was like, Jesus, okay, don't let me die. I'm gonna sort myself out. And I threw this little bit packet thing away, and I kind of went home, slept, and the morning I was fine. It's like, oh man, I dropped that. And then literally I went back in the morning and Luke was looking for it. I don't think I found it. And that just shows, just the nature of my heart at that time. I was like, and that's kind of like a human nature. We go to someone or something to save us, and yet we're just looking, for our pleasure. And that was really, and then I did end up also, so I was selling weed again at my place I had like a really nice kind of place actually in Kings Lynn. It was like at the back of a house, a big back garden, and built little like a flat. And I used to sell drugs from there, and people used to come and buy and smoke with me, and like mainly cannabis, but I also sold cocaine and ketamine a couple of times. Funny thing actually, one time a police person knocked on my door, and I had wraps of ketamine in me, and in the lottery tickets, and like I don't know what, like, and so the neighbors, so like this happened a couple of times, but the neighbors had rang the police and said the noise is too loud, because it's usual to every night we do drugs, drink, and just listen to loud music, whatever, right? And police are coming and it's like knocking on my door and like, your noise is too loud, the neighbors are complaining. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna turn it down. And he's like, I smell some cannabis. This police guy. I'm like, oh, first I was so shook, I was so scared. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know how I even thought of saying these things, right? But I was like, oh, it's just a university, lads, we're just a one-off night, just having the party or something. I can't remember the exact conversation, but it was along those lines, right? And then he basically asked me, are you sure you guys don't like do it like all the time and stuff like that? I was like, no, this is a one-off for sure. And he literally that was the end of it. Like, because if he had come inside and like searched my place, there was like wraps of ketamine, and like that, I would have got arrested at that time straight away. And so again, like I believe, like I wouldn't say like it was God definitely, but I believe there was God worked it out somehow that I didn't get arrested. I did get arrested at other occasions, which was a separate story. So I'd been in custody a few times. I never really went to prison in that sense, but I'd been in custody overnight and stuff like that. But anyway, so that's kind of like, so I was doing cocaine on a regular, and I was just going inside. I was again like, so from weed, now this was cocaine. Now I was even more empty. I remember one time actually being in that little room with these people who were doing these other drugs and selling other drugs, and looking at, and I was like high off crazy things. And I remember seeing them, and I couldn't see their eyes. I don't know whether it was a hallucination. I literally was just, I can't even, it's like beams of darkness coming out of their eyes. It's like crazy to explain, but it's like maybe a spiritual experience. I don't know what it was, but I remember one time looking into my mirror. I had like a long mirror in my apartment there, looking into the mirror, and I'm literally like thinking of seeing my soul, and seeing like a soul as a white kind of thing, and then in my soul there being dark spots as it was being eaten up by these things. So inside those things were going on, but like at that time I was like, I'm a bad man, I'm a hard, nothing's gonna get to me and all this stuff. And that was my mentality, of doing that lifestyle. Anyway, Christmas came. This is 2008 Christmas. I was in Kings Lynn, and I went to, so my dad called me, he's like, come back home from Christmas. I'm like, no, I'm gonna attend a Christmas party here, and then I'm gonna go back. Then I'll come back to High Wycombe at that time it was, and then I'll come back. And some interesting stuff happened that Christmas night. I went to a party, and we'd been doing like cocaine, all the drugs, drinking, and we went to this party, did our thing, came back like 2 o'clock in the morning. Now we're back in our apartment, and one of the guys was on kind of the other room, my bedroom, and he was laid out on the bed like just crazy. And another guy had been spraying using an aerosol can and spraying him with it. And this guy in the bed was saying to this guy, if you do it one more time, I'm going to basically knock you out clean, right? And this guy, being a funny dude, came to me and said to me, here's an aerosol can, go spray him. And me being the bad boy or whatever, right? And be like, yeah, let's do this. And went and sprayed him. And he got up and he was like basically go into a fight, throwing fists, and go into a whole big thing. And I ended up at one time basically holding a knife, which was this big. And I was actually literally going to stab him, but like these other guys stopped me. Thinking back, that's mad. I was on drugs. And then basically what happened, he broke, so we locked him. I told him to get out. I'm not even telling you everything. I told him to get out. He broke my door to come back inside. And then he broke my front door to come inside. And we had these beer bottles, and I basically chucked one at him. And then basically these two other guys basically had to take him away. But that was a very kind of crazy night for me. That really kind of, I don't know. Like, that was really a crazy night for me. I think that's all I can say. I don't think at that time I even thought about it. I was like, whatever, don't mess with me. I'm this, I'm that, whatever. But I was concerned about my door at least. So what happened that night, all of that happened, but the other friends obviously weren't as beneficial to me as I had thought in the beginning anyway. And so then I went back to High Wycombe, and I was still in the same kind of mode. And High Wycombe, I went to I think it was a birthday party just before New Year's, and I went to my cousin's house, and they had the radio on their kind of Sky, and it was a Christian radio, Christian/secular stuff they play as well. But so there was this, my other cousin from Birmingham was on there, and he was like speaking on there, doing stuff, and I was like, that sounds cool. I like to like go on radio and do some stuff, that'd be cool, And so I think we rang him on the same day, and I was chatting to him, and I was like, yeah, it sounds cool. And then basically I was like, I want to get involved or something like that. And he was like, yeah, come to this Christmas party, New Year's Eve at a church, and I'll get you involved. I'll hook you up with my pastor who runs the whole radio thing. And I was like, cool. So basically I was basically now telling my parents and my brother, let's go to this thing. And so we went there, and like actually going to this thing was really hard, or let's say there was a trouble in there. So me and my brother was driving, I was in the front seat, and I was just annoying him with the music I was playing. He wanted to play something else, that kind of, and like my parents are like, let's turn around, we don't want to go. But somehow we ended up going to this night, this evening. And I went there, to be honest, I went there for the food. The Indian food is good food, I'll tell you that. I went there for the music, the tool, I went there for the dancing, the girls. That's why I went there, real talk. I had no interest in that, and also trying to get on the radio to look cool. But it was a different night, like sort of now looking back at it. So I went there was a church thing going on. They was going to do a church service first, which I didn't really know about, but which is usual for Asians. They don't really tell you the full story. So we went there, and there was these other young people sharing their stories of how Jesus has helped them. And I was like, the cool one of them I remember quite distinctly was a young person, I think he must have been about 22. He was sharing how his mum had cancer, and how basically God had got them through all of that, and now his mum was well, and the family was well. And before this, I was like touched by it, and I was encouraged by it. And then there was the message. The preacher came, and he spoke a message on Matthew 11:28, and it's where Jesus says, "Come unto me, all you are heavy burdened, and I will give you rest." And I was crazy, and I'd been arrested just a week before that, and I'd actually smoked a spliff before going to this place out my window. It's like a few hours I smoked a spliff, so I was that was just interesting. So I'm there and I'm hearing this. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I'm thinking Jesus is saying this stuff to me. I'm like, okay, Jesus. Then I remember this. I'm like, Jesus, if you're real, if you can take all this anger, these problems away from me, I will follow you and I will do what you say. That's what I said. And I felt, I didn't feel any electricity, craziness. There was something different. Like the Bible says, when you're in Christ, you're a new creation. I can't really explain it. But almost I can explain it. I felt God come and embrace me. And literally everything was different. And it was a supernatural experience. So after the message, I went and spoke to the pastor. I said, this is, I feel like, I feel different, like I want to commit to this. Also spoke about the radio thing, which was cool. They're like, we'll get you involved. Anyway, we went back that night. So it's like probably about 12:30, we get to High Wycombe. My mum and dad put on God TV, which is a Christian channel. And there was The Basement it's called. It's like a young people's kind of ministry, and there was a drama sketch kind of thing going on where they were showing how young people was bound up in drugs and kind of alcoholism, and they were chained up, how Jesus comes in, sets them free. And this is kind of what's happening to me right now. Obviously at that time I didn't think about it like that, but that kind of just broke something in me at that time, or just did something to me inside me. I basically just fell on the floor and just started crying, weeping. And that was about how much Jesus loves you, even though you've done so much against him. And that, like literally, even though I was born in a Christian family, I haven't shared that with you, but I was born in a Christian family, told to believe in Jesus and all that, but I never really understood what that meant. So I remember times when I was at the back of churches doing drugs, selling drugs and all that stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? All of these things are coming to my mind now. I've done this. Now, how can you love me? All that stuff. But I think for me that was the real kind of miracle, and so basically I went back. And the next morning I woke up. So my family came as well, and my mum and dad obviously they were crying as well. I prayed. The next morning I got up, went into all my stash, tobacco, whatever else was there, chucked the aspirin. Literally, I threw everything away. And then literally, man, my whole life before that was built on getting more drugs. And it's completely shifted. I started reading the Bible, I started speaking to Jesus, just having a conversation with him. I remember my first Valentine's day with Jesus, it's a weird thing to remember, I know you probably think. But before that, I'd be outside partying, with linking up with a girl, whatever. That was a thing before. Now, I literally basically pretty much cut myself off from a lot of my friends, especially because I moved. I didn't tell you this. So I went back to Kings Lynn actually, and I went back to Kings Lynn and I found my place trashed. I went there, there's a compass in my door. So there's a front door which was broken anyway. Then there's a big hallway, then there's the door to my kind of living room there. That had a compass in it. Open that door, there's a knife in my sofa, and my TV is missing. There's a Sony Bravia whatever TV, 32-inch, I paid £400 for it, missing, and everything is everywhere. People had been coming, obviously people who knew me, and smoking up, and they knew I was gone, using it for all of that, and my place had been trashed. And somehow, instead of going crazy about this, I cleaned the place up myself, and I was started praying or speaking to Jesus, and you know what? I don't even care now. I'm different. I'm gonna do a new thing now, And it was interesting because I wasn't never thinking about that. Interesting enough, the same week, because I was only there for about a week and a half, then I came back to High Wycombe and was like, this isn't the place for me to be right now anyway. And the guy who I had that fight with came, so I'd come back from my college. The bus stop was pretty close to like 2 houses next to where my house was. I got off the bus, walked into my house. He was in a car waiting for me. He came and on the garden bit, he started punching me like this. And I'm saying to him, man, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to fight, whatever. I would never say that. I never said that before, But it's me saying that. I think about 5 to 10 seconds later, He's still shouting at me. He's still trying to, and then he starts walking back randomly, and he's like, I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna do this to you. But he walks back and goes into the car and leaves. His personal attack on me, kind of verbally, never changed. I'm gonna get you all this stuff, right? But he stopped laying those punches into me. I went back into the car and left, which was interesting. I've had another experience after that, but I won't. I know time's getting on. But anyway, so I was praying and asked Jesus, should I stay here? And Jesus was like, nah, this environment isn't come out. So anyway, that happened. So now everything is changed, like, so my Valentine's night, I was just talking to Jesus. Jesus was telling me how much he loves me. I was telling him how much I love him, how much he means to me. And like, you know what, for me, the real miracle isn't me stopping drugs. The real miracle isn't me, stopping dealing or whatever. The real miracle for me is finding the love of Jesus. Because I was looking for the love of Jesus or the love of God or this perfect love in all these other things. Whether it was money, whether it was girls, whether it was this, whether it was, I wanted that satisfaction and nothing else could give it to me. And once I found that, all that desires just went. And yes, like that's my kind of story, and like I haven't gone back to like those drugs and like ever. Interesting enough, actually, that week that was there's so much to share. Like that week that was there, these guys who had been dealing drugs with me and doing drugs, so for the week and a half I was in Kings Lynn after this, I let them come into my kind of little flat after I cleaned it up and still smoke and do kind of sniff in my place. I don't know why I did that. I don't know, I was there. However, these guys, I guess God allowed it to be like that. These guys would offer, whether it's a spliff, whether it was cocaine, and I would be like, no. And I actually see it, and we still had the music playing, and they'd be jamming to the music, and I could see now how fake their joy was, because my joy was so real now. It was so, I was like dancing to the music, everything, and they're looking at me was, like I could see they were getting jealous, like, he's not doing these drugs. How is he so happy? But anyways, like, for me, that was a really, back then I didn't think any of it. Now, like when I share story with people, I'm like, that's crazy, A week ago, the same things I would have run after, I would have beat some people up, I would have stole some things to get that same stuff, and now it's been offered to me on a plate. I wouldn't take it. But yeah, and now basically, so that was basically, so I started this love relationship with God, with Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy. He's a lot more to me than just my homeboy. He's my everything, really. But Jesus, and like, initially growing up in a Christian family, I was like, I want to have fun. I don't know, maybe I don't want to do the whole religious thing. And like, let me tell you, but now Jesus isn't equal to religion. Let me just tell you that. I'm not even going to go into it, but Jesus isn't equal to religion. Like, the definition of fun for me is Jesus and his character. He has a sense of humor. He loves having a laugh and all that stuff. And it sounds really weird to people who haven't had kind of those senses tickled. Let's use that word, spiritual senses. But but for me, like, it's beautiful to kind of have that relationship with Jesus. And now basically, I'm a student at this university. I'm 26, where I couldn't pass. I'm in my third year. Should be graduating as a cardiac physiologist next May, which is cool. And on top of that, I'm also involved in the youth ministry, basically inspiring other young people to basically what kind of this is, to find out what it might mean for them to connect with God, have a relationship with God. Because I believe everybody has a purpose and everybody has this yearning to be in a relationship with God.